Hey YouTube, we are live today, this morning, Monday morning. If you're watching the replay, if I keep this up, here's what's going on. I just finished my delivery here in good old Branson, Missouri. That's what's going on with me. UC 95, you first in here, or first to comment at least. John Citrone, hey man, I haven't talked to you in a while, John. How are things going in your world there? Big Billy, what's up? Greg Zimmer, good morning, sir. As you can tell, I'm next to US 65. I don't know if you can hear the traffic. There's a Sonic here. I was thinking about getting breakfast here, but I don't know. Hanging in there, give me a call sometime. I will. I'll probably call you today. I'm going home today for a short period. Hey, Light Bright, what's up? Morning, Tim. I figured I haven't done a live video this week, so I'm trying to do like maybe once a week or whatever. Yukon, what's up, sir? I took my morning dump, feels good. Yep, those morning ones, man. You know, I think if there's a hell, I think that there's a special wing. Hey Nelson, there's a special wing that a hell would be the bathroom in the morning at a truck stop. There's not much nastier than that. Whenever I get off the road, that's one thing I will never miss. But let's not talk about that, shall we? Not that I'm planning on getting off the road anytime soon. I'm just saying, you know, I can't live out here forever. So anyways, that's what's you know, I cut it close, man. I literally got here with 4 hours left of my 70. I almost screwed up, so I'm sitting there. I was gonna empty out in Fulton, Missouri, which normally a lot of times I just go home from there. And I was delivering there on a Saturday. It wasn't due till Sunday, but that particular customer were allowed to deliver early. So I'm looking at the load board, and like I see a quick St. Louis to Branson. I'm like, cool. And I click on it, not realizing I was low on my hours. Simple Logic says they got loads going super short that cannot be picked up till Tuesday and delivered till Wednesday. So let me talk about that for a second. There's a lot of loads on our board that are just worthless. Okay, that's not a knock on Schneider. That is plain and simple. And here's what happens. Let me use this as an example. There's a load that would come out of Bolivar, Missouri, and it was going to Columbus, Ohio. Now that's only a 600-mile trip. You can do that in one shot. Morning, Daniel. But it had 3 days on it, and it was a Wally World load, so definitely couldn't deliver it early. But it was on our load board, and it was a good rate if you could do it in one shot, you know, or even like a day and a half, you know, like pick it up Monday morning, deliver it, you know, Tuesday afternoon. However, it wasn't a good rate. It was a good rate per mile. It was a good rate revenue-wise, but it wasn't a good rate if you go by the day. You know, you want to make so much a day. And so what would happen is none of the ICs would take that unless they were wanting to go to Columbus with some time off. So what would happen is a company guy would take that and they could just relay it to the yard in Columbus and then have a day cab or another guy deliver it, you know, on Wednesday morning. And that's probably what happened. And that kind of bummed me out because last year I was pulling a lot of loads out of that customer and they're seasonal and they're super light. It's like 2,000 pounds. And, you know, I enjoyed doing those loads, and all the loads that showed up on our board this year for those was all like that. There's another load that comes out of Ohio, and John Citrone knows what I'm talking about, that goes to Grand Prairie, Texas. That's another load that's got way too much time on it. However, I'll pick that load because it's got a really good rate per mile, but that's what gets me home. Because what I'll do is I'll take it through Missouri, and I'll have a full weekend and then deliver that load, and then I'll have a really good check for the next week. But it usually creates a bad check for the previous week. Next Gen, what's up? Uncle Matt, how's it going? Steve, what's up? Little I'm hauling right now is really, really light. Yeah, it weighs as much as I do. Excuse me. Yeah, I've been blessed with light loads this week, so my fuel costs are down a little bit. There's some going off my APU this last night, man. It was having some issues. I couldn't sleep last night at all. Big Rich, what's up, man? 190 pounds. I've heard it, you know, when I was at one of my old companies, I talked to a driver. He had a load going to California. It was literally a box that could have fit in his sleeper. But, you know, he threw it in the back of the trailer and he went all the way to California with it from Missouri. Like, man, as an owner op, if that paid well, that'd be killer because, excuse me, you're barely, you know, it's like running empty. And when I run empty, I'm getting 9 easily. There's a load that I pull out of St. Louis that goes to West Virginia that's only a couple of thousand pounds. And when I get there, it's like 9.2 miles to the gallon. So today, the reason why I'm still sitting here, even though I've delivered and I should be going home, I gotta wait till my 10-hour break is up. I forgot to scale it out. Hopefully I don't get an overweight ticket. Yeah. I enjoy those light loads, so. But, somebody sending me a Facebook message. But, anyways, that's what's going on with me. I've got a load that picks up in the O show tomorrow. Hopefully I'll get it done early because my kids are starting school and they have open houses today and tomorrow. And what I'm hoping for is to find that Ohio load because I'm going from Neosho to Ohio. Then hopefully I'm going to pick that Ohio to Texas. I'll see the house, and then by the time I deliver in Texas, it'll be time for the truck show. I'll run a couple of shorties. So, Frito-Lay loads, light. Yep, those are the cream of the crop, man. Those are the ones that you know, especially I have a couple of friends that live out west, and that's their bread and butter, and they're on that load board like glue to pick those. This is the lightest I've ever hauled in my 10 years of driving. I've had a couple of loads like that. But anyways, yeah, I love those light loads. You gotta love it when you have a light load after spending a week or two with heavy loads. Man, you feel like you're flying. Here's an interesting story, maybe interesting, but it's funny to me nonetheless. So there was a time where, you know, when I was training, hold on. Morning, Steve, great video you posted on Friday. Been driving 7 years now. You're a great inspiration to myself and others. Keep up the good work. Well, thank you, Joe. I appreciate it. I try. One of the things that really took me by surprise out here was the amount of negativity. And I get it, man. You know, look at your typical truck driver. We're unhappy, we're unhealthy. You don't eat right, you don't sleep right. And the stress is weighing on us. But back to my story. When I was training, I would always tell the trainees that you have to drive the truck differently for each load. In other words, you're going to shift differently for a heavy load than you would a light load. You're going to take turns a little bit differently, you know, that all that kind of stuff. And one time I was delivering in Moberly, Missouri, and I get a phone call from my dispatcher. And it started off with, "Hey Orion, what's up?" It started off with, "Hey, I need a favor from you." And you all know that when you have your dispatcher ask you for a favor, you know your day is going to be messed up. So he goes, "All right, there's a trailer in Jefferson City where your next load is. You need to take an empty to Jefferson City out of Moberly, and then you need to pick up this one particular trailer. It's loaded with dog food. It needs to go back to Moberly, where you're at, and then take another empty and bring it to Jeff City, and then the next trailer is your load." What had happened was the driver hooked up to an empty, or so what he thought was an empty, and took it, I think it's like 30 miles. I think is what Moberly to Jeff City was. I can't remember. It's not far, but it's not short either. Loaded with 45,000 pounds of dog food. Okay, so this guy hooked up to the trailer, didn't check the back, didn't see that it had a seal on it, and going down the road didn't realize it was heavy. How do you go 30 miles with a 45,000 pound trailer and not realize it's loaded? How do you do that? And I told my dispatcher, I'm like, that dude needs to be fired, because he obviously isn't paying attention. He obviously didn't do a pre-trip on the trailer. He obviously didn't check it out. He obviously wasn't going to sweep it if it was empty. You know, dude had to have been drunk, right, Big Rich? You know, it was, and so I got stuck doing that. So I got like an extra $50 for doing it, but still, it was like, how do you do that? And because I know, especially when you're going over the hills and mountains like in Pennsylvania, you drive differently with a heavy load. Here in Branson, there's some huge steep grades, and if you're not at top of the hill at like 50-55 miles an hour, when you know you're by the time you get down the bottom, that Jake's not holding you. So you got to drive differently, and I just couldn't understand how this dude had mistaken a 45,000 pound load for an empty trailer. Hell, we had suspension gauges on those trucks. The suspension gauge should have told you if you're just that much of an idiot. So I remember last week Schneider had given me an empty number. I was at a customer, so I picked that particular empty up. I got underneath it, and my suspension gauge showed it was loaded before I fully got underneath it. You know, because they have us go underneath it partially. You know, that's the Schneider way. And so I pull back out and I look in the back, and sure enough, it was loaded. So that was in Bentonville, Arkansas, where they're notorious for filling up our empties with pallets and scrap paper. Jeffrey Like, how's it going, sir? Orion, good morning to you. TJ, what's up, man? How's it going? So that's what's going on with me, man. I just kind of waiting for my 10-hour break to be up, I've already made my delivery. It was a small delivery. It was one of the lighter ones, so it didn't take him as long. And gonna go home for the day, and I might try to get my APU service. It's been acting rough, man. It coughed a couple of times last night, and then at one point it died down enough that it cut the power to my CPAP, like just for a second, and then came back up. And so I don't know, I'm not sure what's going on with it. Hey Clyde, what's up, man? So maybe I'm gonna try to get that in today. My hopes are very low for that though. So, but no, I appreciate the response I got with the positivity video. It's a mental game out here, guys, and there are a lot of people that are good truck drivers. They're good drivers, but they don't hack it on the mental part. You know, Next Gen says I'm positive. Yep, Michael is a good guy, man. I've met him. He was cool. He and I chat on the phone sometimes. You know, he's not into all the BS that we have. He's also doing tank freight. Most of the tank yankers I know, they're pretty happy. It's a different kind of trucking. They're not bumping docks, and their customers are happy to see them. You know, us, we're like, oh, what do you mean you're a day early? Go to hell, you know. So, finally caught a live feed. Hell yeah. But that's the thing, you know, I always told my trainees that the only thing you got control of is up here. Good morning, Adam. You don't have control of the truck. Sometimes you don't have control of the trucks. You can't control the traffic. You can't control the weather. You can't control where you go sometimes, if you're dispatched. There are so many elements that you can't control. So the only thing you can control is up here. And a good example is, everybody remember the infamous USA truck video where the camera person was in a car that was waiting for this truck trying to turn around because he was up at a 12-7 bridge, and the guy was literally losing his mind. He totaled that truck trying to turn it around. He ruined the driveline, he ruined the transmission, he ruined the fairings. He tore that truck up, and within an hour that video was posted, USA fired him. And I guess for a while that truck was sitting there at the USA yard there in Arkansas, as a display of how to keep your cool, because there are points where the driver's literally outside of the truck doing that. And when you look at the landscape of the camera, all the guy had to do is back up 50 feet and he had enough room to turn around. Hey Gear Grabber, what's up? So that guy hit what I call the panic point. There's a panic point that we all hit, okay? There was a point personally with me where I was at a shipper, and it was one of those docks that you had to you're basically like this after you hit the dock. There was no other way to do it. And of course I was inexperienced. I didn't know how to do that. And so, and what it is, you got to get it just right. There's no really finagling it, First time in New York City. Yep. Billy, yep. And so I tried it for 10-15 minutes. Meanwhile, I got 3 drivers watching me. I had all the dock guys watching me, and you could tell they were getting kind of irritated. And I finally got on my truck, and I said, I can't do this. I was beating the steering wheel, And so one of the other company guys that, was at the same company I was, he's like, well, I could do it for you, but you're going to have to unhook from your trailer, because he drove a Volvo, I was at a Peterbilt, and he didn't want to try it in a strange truck. I'm like, well, let me try it one more time. So I took a big, I got in the truck, took a deep breath, and I got it in the first time. But I had hit a panic point where I wasn't thinking. The other time I could think of, I was in Shreveport, Louisiana, and they were working on the main, not, these roads, not like interstate, but like in town. And they had taken out, they basically had dug ditches along the sides of the roads and put these metal, posts up. And as I'm making my turn, I realized that I'm going to hit one of those posts. So I stopped, had to back up, and I had to go straight because I couldn't make any turn. Well, there was a whole section that was like that. So it took me kind of like, those puzzles you had as a kid that had the numbers and you got to push the numbers around just to kind of make it in the right order. That's kind of what I was doing, but in a big truck. And there was a bunch of no truck signs here and there, and so I was limited on where I could turn because I couldn't make a left or right turn. So I had hit a point where I just had to stop the truck and just breathe. People are honking at me, flipping me off, I'm just like, screw you, man. I'm dangerous right now because I'm not right up here. And so took a deep breath and finally got out of that. So the mental thing is huge out here because sometimes that's the only thing you got. So that's all. That stuff was in my head when I did that video, and it just kind of poured out. We either get stuck overthinking or not thinking. I would overthink too much. Sometimes I still do, even after 10 years. Yeah, definitely have to have your head in the game. Yeah, it's and it's hard, sometimes, like I said, sometimes you feel like you're in a Mad Max movie out here. It's just, we got a lot of things coming at different angles. And, so when you here's the thing, you could like go through all hell. You can go through a bunch of bad weather and your truck was acting up and then you finally get to the shipper and they weren't easy to get to, and you go through all this crap and you're tired and you're missing your family, and then the clerk that checks you in is being completely rude to you. They treat you like crap, and it can make a guy snap, so I just kind of take a lot of these things not really in stride. I'm not the most positive person. I think that the years of doing vocals and playing in a death metal band really helped. It got my aggression out in other ways. But it could be a battle out here. So Big Rich says, I found that when I stop and catch myself, I do a lot better than continue to attempt a tough back or whatever. Well, I always get it on the first time if I have to poop. Daniel Adams says, I've had a few of those days in my time when I can't even back up and save my life. Yeah, we all have days like that. Like, you could have the easiest back spot, it'll take you like 8 attempts. I remember when I was at Transland, this is another funny story. The owner of Transland, he would get in his pickup and he would circle the lot, just kind of checking out the condition of the trucks and trailers. The CEO, his son, was kind of running it, but he still kind of wanted to, feel like he was involved, And it was late at night, and part of their yard has these slanted spots that just screwed with me for some reason. It was hard to see the lines, so I could never set up right for those. And so as I go through, I'm looking for my spot to park my trailer. He's behind me, and I change my mind on my setup, and I go to back up, and I actually accidentally nudge a trailer that was behind me. I didn't hit it hard, I didn't damage it, I just nudged it. Because, one of the rules of backing is don't back 50 miles an hour backwards. So, and I got out, and I went up to him. I'm like, did I hit that? And he's like, yeah. He just started laughing at me. I'm like, here I am, I just hit a trailer in front of the owner of the company. The owner of the company. And he just kind of laughed, and he's like, ah, no, you didn't damage it. You're all right. And he proceeded to tell me a story about how he was in this one parking lot. He had to back into a dock. He was the only truck in there, and he managed to hit the only object in the parking lot, which was a dumpster. And, you know, it's kind of like that video I think Will posted of that guy that hit that truck out in the middle of nowhere in the parking lot. His truck gets hit. You would think that being away from all the other trucks that you wouldn't get hit, but we all have our moments. And unfortunately, there's a lot of drivers out here that have a four-wheeler mentality. And that's what gets you in trouble. The other day, I was going down 70 and another driver was right next to me, and he was bullying the car in front of him. And that car hit his brakes. If it had been slippery or rainy, he would have slid into me probably. And, you know, and then he gets on the CB. Oh man, I guess they don't like me following that close. You know, kind of laughed about it. I'm like, yeah, that's why people cut us off, because they think we can stop on a dime because of people like that tailgate these trucks. So, with the collision mitigation system, you can't do that. And I'm going to do a video eventually about my review of the collision mitigation system. And last night it was making me nervous because it was raining the whole time here. Like from St. Louis all the way here, it was raining. And you get going down these big hills and people would like pass you, and then like they're not going slow. You know, I mean, they would slow down. And so if they slow down enough, well, this collision system is going to put the brakes on for me going down a hill in the rain. That's dangerous. I would like to see, you know, some people theorize that a lot of these pileups we've been seeing in the wintertime is caused by two things. Number one, lack of CB radio, and number two, these collision systems hitting the brakes whenever something goes down in front of them. And it's been proven that the collision system doesn't prevent the collision per se, but it just reduces the amount of damage, because it hits the brakes the split second before you can. And that, you know, so therefore you're going slower when you actually hit the object. So I don't like it. It kind of sucks that, you know, my trucks were limited because I had to get one with the collision system, but that's how much I liked it here, you know, like it here. So, but it is dangerous. It does kind of freak me out. Bobtail or rain, or both, man. When I'm bobtailing in the rain, I'm doing like 50 miles an hour, so no one can, you know, cause my brakes to get slammed on. So, but anyways, I appreciate the response to my positivity video, guys. Jeffrey called me after I did that video, and he was like, "Are you okay?" And Russ asked me if I needed you know, he sent prayers to me. I'm like, I'm not depressed. It was a serious video. Yeah, I don't like mine either. It breaks for me when the vehicle in front of me is like 4.5 seconds away. Daniel, do you have the Freightliner or the On Guard or the Bendix on the Kenworth? Because it ain't like the brakes are all that good, bobtail. Yeah, exactly. When I was a trainee, my trainer wouldn't let me even drive bobtail because he didn't trust my braking. You got the Bendix on your internet? Okay, that's what I got. It's the Bendix on my Kenworth. And I don't know, the Freightliner system, I like, you know, I've never driven the Freightliner system, but I like the fact that it'll tell you the speed of the vehicle in front of you. This one just tells us the seconds. And I'm not sure what the parameters are, but the other thing that's kind of annoying about it is you'll set your cruise at like 63, 64, and it'll adjust to the vehicle in front of you. Well, sometimes it'll adjust like a mile ahead. So, you know, you're sitting there in La La Land, and you look down, and you're doing like 60 miles an hour because the vehicle in front of you is doing 60. And so you're like, turn off the cruise, get on the gas, blow by them. So that's kind of annoying. But that's that. So, but yeah, I worked hard this week. I've had a good week revenue-wise. Yesterday I just kind of sat most of the day. So yesterday, this kind of sucks when you have e-logs. This is what I went through yesterday. So I left the yard in Edwardsville, and they had me picking up an empty. And you Schneider guys watch this, you're going to identify with this. You're going to be like, been there, done that. I literally went 1.5 miles to pick up a trailer. And most of the warehouses there, think of a U shape, you know, like a square U. And the trailer they had me picking up was all the way on the other side from the guard shack. And I go in there, and they got the bank style thing with the container, and you know, and you have to have paperwork just to pick up an empty. So I did that. I had to drive all the way around the U and then drive all the way back, did the bank thing, and then I literally went next door to drop this trailer because you can't bobtail in this customer. Now I was hoping they would just send me to pick up an empty from the yard. No, I had to literally go next door. So I go next door, check in the office, and she gives, you know, normally when you check in, you tell them where you're going, and then they tell you where to drop your trailer and where to pick up the loaded one, and then you go in the office and get the paperwork. Well, this particular day they didn't do that. They said, okay, drop it in slot 209 and then go to the shipping office. Well, 209 is way on the other side of the U, so I gotta go all the way around, drop it in the very last, almost last spot at 209. Then I had to drive all the way back to the shipping office, and I go in there, you know, do the paperwork. She's like, I said, do you know what slot this is in? It's like, oh, I'll look it up. So he gets on the computer. Oh, it's in slot 210. So I had to drive all the way back again to pick up the trailer that was literally next to where I dropped. And I'm like, that's the kind of stuff that eats up your e-log clock, man. I hate that. And I was already pressed for time. You know, one traffic snag in St. Louis, you know, and this was a, what they call a customer critical load. So, and I like these loads because they're light, they're easy, except for Joplin, and you can spend the night at the customer. But yeah, it was like, so that whole process took me like an hour, and just to like go to one building, pick up a trailer, and go to the next building. Kimasabi says, you said you were going to look for load to GATS for this week. Isn't GATS the 24th, 25th, 26th? Yeah. I'm going to Ohio that delivers on Thursday the 17th. And there's a load that comes out of Ohio that delivers in Grand Prairie, usually on Tuesday. And in the past, I've done that load and just go home with it. And so Tuesday would be the 22nd. So if I did that load, then I would just run a couple of shorties until the 24th. Well, 23rd is when I want to be parked by. So I don't know how full the parking lot gets, but you know, I've made some extra revenue so far, so I figured I'll get there Wednesday afternoon. And so yeah, it's yeah. See what I'm saying, Kimasabi. So, Daniel Adams says, well, mine tells me about the seconds and miles per hour of the vehicle, and yes, that too, I could be in my driving la-la land, and it takes me a while to realize I'm going slower than I was before. Yeah, because your cruise still says 63, or whatever speed you set it at. But, you know, you look at your speedometer or your GPS speed, and you're like, I'm doing 58 miles an hour behind this Prime truck, you know, or behind this company Schneider truck. But that's just the tentative plan. Kimasabi, 70 usually. Yeah, I don't do 70 too often. Now, in this truck, because of the collision system, I find myself being a little bit more aggressive on passing. But the worst part is when people, like, hit their brakes real hard before they get off the ramp, or they pull that, pass you, get in front of you, and then get off the exit. This thing in Arkansas, it was around Little Rock, this thing hit the brakes so hard it made my heart jump. I was like, holy crap. Because someone did that. They literally passed me, got in front of me, hit the brakes so they can get into the, you know, they miscalculated getting into the ramp. Yeah. So, there was a car last night that kept doing the whole leapfrog thing where they pass you, slow down. You know, they obviously, you know, we weren't using our cruises because it was raining, but they obviously didn't know how to maintain a consistent speed. And man, at one point, I got behind them, or they got in front of me, and they started to slow down again. I put my brights on. I'm like, come on, man. And you know, of course, they didn't do anything, and so I go to pass them again. I hit the air horn. They're like, dude, crazy truck driver, get away. Either go or let me go, you know? So, it's people like that, just, what can you do, right? So, let's see how many hours I got left here, guys.
Home. Messaging. You have 8 hours
my 10-hour
and 0
break
minutes
is done.
of remaining drive time.
So I'm going to show my PTI TIV. Is that an orange shirt? Yes, it is. But it is not a Schneider shirt. It's the bright colored stuff that you can buy at Walmart. You know, like what construction workers would wear. I'm waiting for the moment that I'm wearing this shirt on the yard of at a Schneider yard, and then someone asks me if I have a vest. I'm like, this is brighter than my vest. Why can't this work? So, I hate that, especially when it's wet or snowing out. That thing can cause a jackknife quick. Yeah. And see, when I bought this truck in February, and I didn't have any bad weather from then on, you know, I had some cold weather, but no snow. So, this will be my first winter with it. And not looking forward to it. You know, Christian Trucker and I have been talking. I think I'm going to run the South and hang out with him for a little bit. You know, he and I have talked about that. And, you know, I guess I'll have to go to a few paper mills down there, right? You know, some guys do the Laredo and back kind of stuff. But Andrew, morning Steve, where are you at? I'm on the Road Ranger in Rochelle heading to Crest Hill, Illinois. I'm in Missouri. I'm getting ready to go home for the day. My 10-hour break is officially up now. Let's see, change on pre-trip TIV. There we go. Now I'm doing my pre-trip. I'll be up in Illinois, maybe tomorrow. Depends on if I. Well, no, it'll be Wednesday morning. I see those Crest Hill loads a lot, but I don't know. They're never confirmed, but I might have done one of those. You know, my wife asked me, she goes, is this your first year at Schneider? I'm like, no, I'm at a year and a half now. So come December, it'll be 2 years that I've been over here. And yesterday I finished up my numbers for July, and my average rate per mile is right where it's always been, but my net per mile was up way more than it was when I did that last video about my numbers. So that's good. I kind of got frustrated yesterday because, you know, writing down the load assignment agenda stuff, like what Jeffrey's talked about, I'm having to think, let's write down the stuff that the Truckin' Pro program wants to know, like the deadhead odometer and all that stuff. And the fuel stops have been kind of tripping me up because I don't write the fuel stops down. And yesterday I was looking at the receipts that I had scanned, and I realized there was a gap between July 31st and August 3rd. Like, I know I got fuel on this load, and since I didn't write it down, I didn't have the odometer for that, and I couldn't find the receipt. And I went to the Loves app thinking you could do the same thing, like you can Pilot, get the, you know, because that's where I knew I got fuel. And I think you could, you know, Pilot, you can look at all your receipts. Well, Loves, you have to go to the website, and I thought there was a section on the app where you can look at that, but no, you have to go to the website. So I had to go to the website, and then it didn't tell me the odometer on the fuel. So I know my fuel mileage is inaccurate, so I had to kind of guesstimate. Okay, well, I went from Edwardsville to Rolla this many miles. My deadhead miles was like this number, so I had to subtract that number and did like a guesstimate. And see, and that's the kind of stuff I got to get better if I'm going to expand my horizon. And it's I got to get more organized. You know, that's one of the things that happens up here. And right now, like how many of you have your laptop or your computer at home and your desktop looks like a mess? You know, it's the equivalent of a messy desk on your you know, papers and everything. That's me. That's how I am. And I'm not as bad as, say, Dread Pirate Trucker, who he managed to lose his toll receipts on one trip. I'm not that bad, and I'm getting a lot better about those kind of things. But at the same time, I'm still, you know, I'm learning this program, because after the first of the year, it's going to be all on me. I'm going to start doing all the paperwork and taxes and everything myself. So I got to get my act together. I got to get it together. So, well, guys, it's been fun. Thanks for watching. I guess I'll leave this video up, and we'll see you again. I don't have any videos planned for a minute. You know, Pale Rider was asking me last night. It's like, hey, when are you going to put up another video? I'm like, I put up 3 last week. The Landstar Alaska load is kind of interesting. There's a lot of newbies, including myself, that see that big number, oh, $12,500, not realizing what's involved with that load. And so I had to put that out there. And last I heard, I think he's still going to do that load. So, but to each his own, man. Everybody runs their business a different way. And I would like to do a load to Alaska. I think it'd be fun to do in somebody else's truck for $3 a mile, but it'd be fun. Does the board get slow during winter? Lafayette asks. Yes and no. It depends on what areas. Sometimes you have to run out of your regular area. The trailer pool gets kind of messed up here. There's, you know, the loads kind of change. You know, what you normally would find in one area isn't there, and stuff that you've never seen before pops up. So everybody's kind of frustrated because they're dealing with new customers, and a lot of load cancellations, or a lot of, you know, wrong pickup numbers and stuff like that. That tends to seem to increase. But looking at my quarterly numbers, I really don't lose a whole lot. So the freight is consistent, which is why, you know, I'm here in the first place. That was a good video, says Daniel. I am, says, thanks, Steve. Good video. Cool. Daniel Adams, I was like, I'll do that, but when you factored everything on that load, I was like, nope, I wouldn't do it at all. Yeah, and that's the thing. The first time I brought it to a friend of mine's attention when I was still at Landstar, I was like, oh man, there's this load paying this much going to Alaska. He's like, well, why aren't you doing it? And I was like, well, I don't know, I was thinking about it, but I don't have a passport, so I can't go through Canada. And so we did the math, and he kind of pointed out, well, that load's only paying this much per mile. And see, that's the thing. That's the Landstar part of me is I see the gross numbers at Landstar, and right away I'm doing the math. You know, when Sharon did her video versus Traveloka versus Schneider, I think the point she was trying to make was that a Schneider IC's gross is different from, say, someone like Traveloka or Landstar, and here's why. Because we're seeing, you go to Landstar, if the load pays $3,000, well, that's before Landstar's cut. So you have to do the math. Here, the math is already done for us. If our load pays, you know, $2,000, that's to the truck. Schneider's already taken its percentage, but I call that gross because you still have to take out fuel and insurances and all that. So that's when I say that our gross numbers are different from their gross numbers. I think that's what Sharon was trying to prove, and it kind of got misconstrued there. But you got Schneider ICs that look at the Landstar load board and like, oh my God, that I've never seen a load that paid $4,000 here at Schneider. Well, you know, actually that load's paying, you know, less than that because that's to the truck. And so when you're looking at the Landstar load board, or probably any spot market load too, is you got to do the math. You got to have a calculator right then and there. And then you have to factor in tolls, where it's going, if it's a dead-end area. And most of the big paying loads when I was at Landstar were going to dead-end areas. So you have to factor in deadhead. So like if you go into Denver, you're either going to deadhead 500 miles to Kansas City, or you're going to get a super cheap heavy load coming out of the beer factory there. And you have to factor in those things. You know, what's cheaper, the 500-mile deadhead, or taking the load for probably less than what your cost per mile is, or more than what your cost per mile is. So math is a huge thing, and a lot of people don't realize that. A lot of people just kind of, oh look, this load pays $12,000. I'm like, no, it doesn't pay $12,000. Now, granted, if it wasn't for all the deadhead miles, that load would be pretty cool. But still, if my costs are 84 cents a mile, then that load's paying 80 cents a mile after the deadhead and fuel. Well, you're losing money on that load. And I don't know about you, but there's some pretty remote areas there in Alaska. Like I said, I would do it in somebody else's truck, just for the experience. But I don't have a passport, and I don't know anybody that's going to loan me a truck to go up to Alaska with. So, with that being said, everybody, take it easy. Thanks for watching. And it's time for me to go home. So, if I normally talk to you and you call me and I don't answer, because I'm at home. So, guys, take it easy. Later.